2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. The 2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, officially known as the Formula One Pirelli Gran Premio del Made in Italy e dell'Emilia Romagna 2021, was a Formula One motor race which took place on 18A, Italy. The race, held in wet conditions, was the second round of the 2021 Formula One World Championship, and the second Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Louise Hamilton, who led the Drivers' Championship, started from pole position, but he was overtaken at the first corner by Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing, who led the rest of the race and claimed victory. Hamilton managed to recover from a minor crash to take second place for the Mercedes team, just ahead of the McLaren of Lando Norris. The race was temporarily stopped halfway through after a high-speed crash involving Valtteri Bottas and George Russell. Background: the race was the second round of the 2021 Formula One World Championship and the second running of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. It was the 29th time Imola hosted a Formula One race, having previously hosted 27 editions of the San Marino Grand Prix and the 1980 Italian Grand Prix. Unlike the 2020 edition, which took place over 2 days, this event utilized the traditional 3-day format. The drivers and teams were the same as the season entry list, with no additional stand and drivers for the race. Tire supplier Pirelli brought the C2, C3 and C4 tire compounds designated hard, medium and soft respectively for teams to use at the event. In March 2021, organizers announced that the race would be held behind closed doors due to the COVID-19 pandemic in Italy. The DRS zone, located on the main straight, would be longer than the previous edition of the race to aid overtaking. The detection point was moved from after turn 18 to before turn 17. Louise Hamilton entered the weekend as both the defending race winner and the championship leader, with a 7-point lead over Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing. Verstappen was considered the favorite to win the race, ahead of Hamilton and his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Some teams had new parts on their cars for the first European race of the year, with Ferrari and Williams using their versions of the Z-shaped floors Mercedes and Red Bull had utilized in Bahrain. Practice: there were 3 practice sessions, all an hour in length. The first practice session started at 11:00 local time UTC plus 2:00 on Friday 16 April. The second practice session started at 14:30 local time on the same afternoon, and the final practice session started at 11:00 on Saturday. The first practice session ended with Bottas fastest ahead of Hamilton and Verstappen. The session was red-flagged twice, the first time following a collision between Red Bull's Sergio Perez and Alpine's Esteban Ocon at turns 5 and 6, and a second time when Nikita Mazepin crashed at turn 18. The second practice session ended with Bottas fastest ahead of Hamilton and Pierre Gasly, driving for AlphaTauri. The session was interrupted twice, the first time when Verstappen stopped on track, resulting in the virtual safety car being deployed, and a second time when Charles Leclerc crashed his Ferrari at the end of the session, bringing out the red flag. The final practice session ended with Verstappen fastest ahead of the McLaren of Lando Norris and Hamilton. Qualifying. The time of the qualifying session was moved to avoid a clash with the funeral of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, who died on 9 April. As a result, the start times for the practice sessions were also adjusted. Before the start of qualifying, at 14:00 local time UTC plus 2:00, there was a minute's silence to mark the prince's death. The first part of qualifying cone was red-flagged after Yuki Tsunoda spun and crashed heavily at the Variant Alto chicane. As only 5 drivers had set a time before Tsunoda's crash, the track was noticeably congested near the end of the session. In addition to Tsunoda, the eliminated drivers included both the Alfa Romeos of Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi, and both the Haas cars of Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Giovinazzi later issued a public criticism of Mazepin, who had overtaken the Italian driver on his last lap. The second part of qualifying Q2 was less eventful, but saw the surprise elimination of the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz Jr., who only managed 11th place. Behind the Spaniard was George Russell, Sebastian Vettel, Russell's teammate Nicolas Latifi, and Fernando Alonso. Sergio Perez topped the session, ahead of the McLaren of Lando Norris, who had performed impressively all weekend. Louise Hamilton took pole position for the 99th time in the final part of qualifying, just ahead of the Red Bull of Perez, who confessed that he had lost time at the reverse double left-hander. Norris would have started on the front row for the first time in his career had he not breached track limits at the fast Pirelli curve, leading to his time being deleted. He started 7th. Perez's teammate Max Verstappen thus qualified 3rd, less than a tenth of a second behind Hamilton, while Charles Leclerc managed to take 4th place in the session. Behind them, Pierre Gasly and Daniel Ricciardo qualified 5th and 6th, while Hamilton's teammate Valtteri Bottas experienced a torrid session. Having been first in Cone, he only managed 8th in Q3. The top 10 was rounded out by Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll, the latter of whom did not set a lap during the session. Qualifying classification. Races. The race started at 15:00 local time UTC plus 2:00 and was held over 63 laps. Heavy rain had fallen before the race, and on his way to the grid, Fernando Alonso lost control and hit the wall. At Tosa he managed to drive to the grid, where the Alpine mechanics were able to fix the damage. Sebastian Vettel had to start from the pit lane after his brakes overheated before the race and was given a 10-second penalty when the team failed to fit his car's tires before the 5-minute deadline. Charles Leclerc was able to recover from a spin on the formation lap and start the race. At the race start, Max Verstappen bolted off the line and managed to overtake both his teammate Sergio Perez and pole sitter Lewis Hamilton to take the lead. Hamilton was forced to drive over the curbs on the outside of the Tamburello curve, which damaged his front wing. On the run up to the variant Alto chicane, Nikita Mazepin was unable to avoid the Williams of Nicolas Latifi, who had run wide at the Minerali right-hander. Mazepin's Haas emerged undamaged, but Latifi was spun into the wall, ending his race. During the resulting safety car, Mick Schumacher spun near the pit exit and lost his front wing, while Perez, after running into the gravel, illegally regained his position, an action which gained him a 10-second stop-go penalty. With the rain gradually ceasing, Vettel was the first driver to change onto slick tires, which he did on lap 22. Verstappen, leading by just over a second from Hamilton, pitted on lap 27 for slicks. Hamilton, seeking to utilize the overcut, looked to be neck and neck with his rival when he came into the pits the next lap, but a comparatively slow pit stop dropped him back behind Verstappen. On the 31st lap, Hamilton slid into the gravel at Tosa while trying to lap the Williams of George Russell. He managed to rejoin the race, albeit with damage to his front wing caused by the barrier. Soon after, Russell was involved in a 320 km/h 200 mph crash with the other Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas at the entrance to the fast Tamburello chicane. The race was red-flagged because debris had scattered across the track. Both drivers were noticeably enraged following the incident. Russell marched over to the remains of Bottas' Mercedes to confront him, while Bottas replied to a light slap on his crash helmet from Russell by giving him the middle finger. Because the stewards classified the incident as a racing incident, neither driver was penalized. Just before the restart, Verstappen almost spun at Ravazza, but managed to maintain control. He kept the lead and pulled away for the rest of the race. Behind him, Lando Norris overtook the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc for second place, while Perez and Yuki Tsunoda spun at Villeneuve and Tamburello respectively, dropping them down to 14th and 15th. Hamilton, starting 9th after the red flag, worked his way upwards through the field, and eventually managed to pass the stubborn McLaren of Norris for second place on lap 60. Norris achieved his second podium with third place, following an equal placing at Austria the previous year. Hamilton claimed the bonus point for fastest lap, allowing him to maintain the lead in the championship over Verstappen. Post-race, Toto Wolff expressed displeasure with both Bottas and Russell following the race, but remarked he had expected Russell, a member of the Mercedes junior team, to be more circumspect while overtaking a Mercedes. Bottas had sustained a bruised knee in the 30G 290M/S2 970 FT/S2 crash, and Wolff was also irritated that his car had been almost completely wrecked. The following day, Russell expressed his desire to clear the air with Bottas following the confrontation, and later apologized to Bottas and to the Williams team. Lance Stroll was later given a 5-second time penalty for cutting the Tamburello chicane, dropping him from 7th. Kimi Räikkönen was given a 30-second penalty after he breached the restart rules, dropping him from 9th place to 13th. Räikkönen's team appealed the penalty. It was upheld following a review. Race classification. Championship standings after the race. Note: only the top 5 positions are included for both sets of standings.